A while ago, I watched a YouTube video of science fiction author Hannu Rajaniemi talking about his book and his writings. In that video, he recalls his conversation with another science fiction author, Stephen Baxter, who had done months and months of research for one of his books involving a life form on a neutron star. But none of those research was as useful as sitting down and writing the first scene where the main character opens her eyes and looks around. I paused that video and tried to find this book by Stephen Baxter. The book is called Flux and is the third book in a series called Zeely Sequence. I couldn't find an audiobook for Flux, but among the list of similar books, I discovered Dragon's Egg by Robert L. Forward. The description of this book had everything I was looking for. This is the official blurb. In a moving story of sacrifice and triumph, human scientists establish a relationship with intelligent life forms, the Chila, living on Dragon's Egg, a neutron star where 1 Earth hour is equivalent to hundreds of their years. The Chila culturally evolved from savagery to discovery of science, and for a brief time, men are their diligent teachers. Every time the POV switches between humans and Chila, we see the civilization has advanced and we follow a new Chila character. Even though we don't stick with them for too long, they leave a lasting impression on the readers, just as they leave one on the advancement of the civilization. The first Chila we meet is someone by the name Great Crack. She is a good hunter and a hard fighter, but her habit of hoarding things slows down her hunting party. So the leader makes her drop unnecessary things. She obeys and discards her collection, but not all of them. Secretly, she holds back the leftover pots that held the seeds that she ate during her journey. Later, this habit of hers allows Great Crack to become the first mathematician of the Chila civilization. Here's an excerpt. Then, in a flash of inspiration, one of the greatest mathematical minds ever hatched in the past or future history of the Chila made a great leap of abstract thought. I took one seed from each pot that I ate, Great Crack said to herself, so I have as many seeds as pods. Her mind faltered for a moment. But seeds are not pods. It recovered. But there are as many seeds as there were pods, so the number is the same. Several years later, the tribe faces tough times. Food becomes scarce, and Great Crack, who is now the leader of the tribe, sends out a hunting party farther than they are used to into uncharted lands in a direction which is hard to navigate because of the magnetic pole's orientation of the star. We see sacrifice from the older Chilas who give up their food so the hunting party can have enough for their journey. We see desperation as another tribe attacks and devours their food. We see sadness. We see a tribe driven out of their home in search of fertile land. And driven by these necessities, we see an invention that lets the tribe, or what's left of it, overcome the difficulty in traveling the hard direction of the magnetic field. The book not only exhibits the science of a neutron star, but also the biology of the Chilas. There is one Chila named Pink Eyes who is born with a mutation. He gets singled out by his playmates as a youngling. He's pale and frail and has pink eyes. One day when he sits alone and asks his God why he was born that way, I felt his sadness. Turns out his mutation is a gift, and his gift eventually leads to his demise. Mutation has made his eyes sensitive to the frequency of the laser the human probes are using to map the surface. He could see the rays and predict their arrivals. And when the lasers arrive, when it washes over the Chila's body, it causes a tingling effect, which they interpret as a god's blessing. So this Chila, who was once an outcast, becomes a prophet. He commissions a temple to honor the god. It's the biggest construction project of Chila civilization. It is big for a life form the size of a sesame seed, but on human scale, they are pretty small. However, the size was enough to get picked up by the human probe. This is how humans realized the existence of intelligent life on the surface. But before humans react, the probe changes its orbit to map another part of the star. The timing couldn't have been worse. At the inauguration of the biggest temple in the history of Chila, the prophet looks at the sky, waiting for the signs of the laser which never comes. To the Chilas, their god has abandoned them. The prophet becomes a false prophet and gets killed by the mob. Of all the many stories within each time jump in the book, the story of Pink Eyes is the saddest. But life goes on, so does Chila's technological advancement. After another jump in the timeline, we meet another Chila, this time a general named Swift Killer who has been assigned a dangerous mission. Along with another soldier named Northwind and a scientist named Cliff Watcher, she has to reach the tallest point in their kingdom and attempt to send the first signal to their god, the human spaceship. Climbing upwards in the harsh gravity of a neutron star is no easy task. The three brave Chilas manage it nevertheless, though not without struggle. They send a signal, but before a response comes, the general, the soldier, and the scientist die from injuries and hunger and exhaustion. If the story of the prophet was the saddest, at least to me, then the story of this general is the most satisfying, at least for me. With the death of these three brave Chilas, we get another glimpse of their biology. Their bodies break into basic constituents, turn into a tree, and then back into its original self. Here's an excerpt. Swift Killer had never heard so much. Her last thought was that Bright had decided to punish her for having the temerity to attempt to talk to God. The automatic protective mechanisms in her body, activated by the lack of body reserves and the shock from the topside burns, suddenly took over. The animal reflexes were turned off, and for the first time in untold generations, a Chila went to sleep. It takes several generations for the transformation, the sleep, to complete and requires very specific conditions for this to happen successfully. Because out of the three Chilas, only Swift Killer and Cliff Watcher wake up, and waiting for them in their device was a response from their god. Again and again we see generations with necessities which drive new inventions. Again and again we see the cost of these inventions. But they are all worth it. Soon, with the help of humans, they advance their science and technology further than humans. Secret of gravity, a new fundamental particle faster than light travel. They wouldn't just hand over this knowledge to humans, but they leave hints. Here's an excerpt. The rest of the section was gibberish. Puree mused. The Chila could have told the humans about the particle, but had decided not to. The human race was going to have to find that particle by itself and learn enough about its mass and lifetime so that they could decrypt the section and read what the Chila had learned about it. Of course, if the humans did their research correctly, they would know practically everything that was now hidden behind the gibberish. But if they had gotten off on the wrong track, then the knowledge the Chila had left would correct them before they went on to learn more about the universe that they live in. Just like a good teacher, Pierre thought. You give the students a start by letting them know there is something interesting to learn in a certain area. Let them learn about it on their own, then finally check the results and give them any correction necessary. I really like this book. It's the second book I have read where I was more interested in the alien storyline rather than the human storyline. If you're reading a physical copy or e-book, then you would get to read the technical appendix attached to the end of the book. These act as references and explanations for the science that is depicted in the story. It has numbers about the neutron star, Its structure, the design of the human spaceship, Sheila physiology, their history, and even a rough route our characters take over generations, starting at their original home, to Great Crack learning mathematics, to Pink Eye's religious mission, to Swift Killer's climbing mission. I think I heard that Robert L. Forward gave out a challenge that no one can find mistakes in the science depicted in his book. Dragon's Egg was first published in May 1st, 1980. In 1981, this book won the Locus Award in the category of Best First Novel. Dragon's Egg is a very good book, and considering this was Robert L. Forward's first book, it's simply amazing.